They called me lazy for driving to campus. They called me careless for eating a ham sandwich. For 4 straight months, 2 of my own teammates made me feel like the villain of my own group project, just for living a normal life. And when the time came to finally get even, I didn't yell. I didn't report them. I didn't even confront them. I baked. By the end of that potluck, every single person in that room was raving about my brownies, including the 2 people who spent a semester silently judging everything I did. What happened next is the kind of quiet, perfectly executed payback that makes you want to stand up and clap. Let's get into it. If you've ever sat there taking abuse from people who think their lifestyle makes them morally superior to you, and you've dreamed of the perfect, calm, unbothered way to clap back, this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and settle in, because this one's deliciously satisfying. College group projects are already a gamble. You're stuck in a room with strangers for weeks, forced to share a grade, and praying nobody in your group turns out to be a nightmare. I'd survived plenty of these before. I thought I knew what to expect. A slacker who does nothing, maybe an overachiever who takes over everything, the usual cast of characters. What I got instead was something I hadn't prepared for. 2 teammates who didn't just have different values than me. They wanted me to know it, constantly, loudly, in every conversation, no matter how small. Let's call them Maya and Josh. From the very first meeting, before we'd even divided up the workload, I could feel it. The way Maya's eyes flicked down when I mentioned grabbing lunch on the way. The way Josh let out this tiny disapproving exhale when I said I'd driven over instead of biking. Small things. Things you could almost convince yourself you were imagining, except it kept happening. Every meeting had at least one moment where I felt like I was being quietly graded. Not on the project, but on my life choices. It didn't take long for the quiet part to disappear. I could never be okay with having a ham sandwich, Maya said one afternoon, watching me unwrap my lunch like I'd pulled out a small crime scene. I hadn't asked for her opinion. I hadn't asked her anything. I just wanted to eat before we started working. I laughed it off the first time. People say weird things, I told myself. Not everyone means to be condescending. Then came the driving comment. Well, you should have cycled today instead of coming with your car, Josh said, shaking his head slightly, like I'd personally set fire to a forest on my morning commute. I want to be clear about something. I don't have a problem with vegetarians. I don't have a problem with cyclists. I have a problem with people who can't have a conversation without turning it into a referendum on how I live my life. Every meeting became an exercise in bracing myself. What normal, harmless thing was I going to be quietly shamed for today? The tone of the entire project shifted with them. Every suggestion I made got filtered through their worldview first. Every discussion started tilting toward lectures about sustainability, ethics, and doing better, even when it had nothing to do with our actual assignment. I started to dread our meetings before they even began. That specific kind of dread where your stomach tightens the second you check your calendar and see their names on it. The breaking point came when they proposed we spend several days visiting local farms to interview people about sustainable agriculture. On paper, sure, it sounded noble. In reality, it was completely unnecessary for our project, and it would burn through days we didn't have. We were already behind. We had actual deliverables due, and yet here they were, ready to turn a group assignment into a personal field trip to feel good about themselves. I said no, calmly, clearly. I told them I wasn't going to spend 3 days on a farm tour that wouldn't meaningfully contribute to our grade. I said I was already carrying more than my share of the workload, and I needed to focus on the parts of the project that actually mattered. To their credit, they didn't argue. They said they understood. They packed up and left the following week, and over the course of that final stretch, they were gone for nearly 3 full days. Here's the part that really got under my skin, though. While they were off touring farms and having what I can only assume were deeply fulfilling conversations about crop rotation, I was the one left behind, alone, finishing the actual research the project needed. Real work, deadline work, the stuff that would actually be graded. And when their farm trip finally made it into our final report, it amounted to a footnote. A few paragraphs, tucked in like an afterthought, after 3 days of my labor spent covering for their absence. I sat with that feeling for a while. Not rage exactly, something quieter and more corrosive. The specific frustration of being underestimated and overworked by the same 2 people. at the same time. I thought about saying something. I thought about pushing back, laying it all out, making them understand what those 3 days had cost me. But the end was in sight. The project was almost done. I told myself it wasn't worth the confrontation. Mostly because somewhere in the back of my mind, a different kind of plan was already taking shape. Not a confrontation, something better. As we wrapped up the project, someone suggested a potluck, a small casual way to celebrate finishing, with everyone bringing something homemade to share. The second I heard the word potluck, I knew exactly what I was bringing. I have a brownie recipe that isn't just good. It's the kind of recipe people remember. Dense, impossibly moist, rich enough that one square is somehow both too much and not enough. I've had people ask me for this recipe at parties where I wasn't even the host. Every other brownie I've had since developing it has been a letdown by comparison. This wasn't about poisoning anyone or humiliating them in some dramatic scene. My plan was simpler and honestly more satisfying than that. After months of being made to feel small for the way I lived my life, I was going to show up with something undeniably, universally good, made by the person they'd spent a semester quietly looking down on. The day of the potluck, I carried in a full tray, still slightly warm, the smell alone enough to turn heads across the room. I didn't say a word about it. I didn't need to. People started drifting toward the table almost immediately. Someone took a bite and audibly groaned. Someone else came back for a second piece before they'd even finished the first. Within an hour, my tray, my entire generously sized tray, was empty. Scraped clean. Not a crumb of moist brownie left behind on that plate. And there they were, Maya and Josh. The same two people who'd spent months making sure I knew exactly what they thought of my ham sandwiches and my car commute. Going back for seconds of something I made in my own kitchen, with my own hands, using ingredients they probably wouldn't have questioned if they didn't know I was the one who made them. I watched them enjoy every bite. I watched them ask who'd brought the brownies, and I watched their faces when they realized it was me, the person they'd quietly judged for 4 straight months. No lecture. No confrontation. No dramatic reveal. Just the simple, undeniable fact that the thing everyone loved most at that potluck came from the person they thought had nothing to teach them. There's a particular kind of satisfaction in being good at something in front of people who assumed you weren't worth their respect. I didn't need Maya and Josh to apologize. I didn't need them to admit they'd been condescending for months. I just needed them to sit there, brownie in hand, enjoying something I made. No ethics lecture required, no judgment attached, just genuine, uncomplicated appreciation. That was enough. Looking back, I don't think Maya and Josh ever realized how they came across. Some people are so convinced their choices make them better that they don't notice the toll it takes on everyone around them. I didn't need to prove a point with an argument. I proved it with a tray of brownies and a room full of people who couldn't stop reaching for more. Sometimes the best comeback isn't the loudest one. Sometimes it's just being undeniably good at something, and letting the people who underestimated you watch it happen. If this story hit that sweet spot of quiet, satisfying justice, smash that like button and let me know in the comments. What's the most understated revenge you've ever pulled off or witnessed? And if you want more stories like this one, hit subscribe, because there are plenty more where this came from.